President Trump is behaving very similarly to how he was talking before Operation Epic Fury started. So remember, before Operation Epic Fury, days before it, when the military assets with the airstrike carrier groups were not in the region, President Trump was saying like, "Oh, we're having the best negotiations with the Islamic Republic." He says with Iran, they're good. They want a deal. The negotiations are going well, and then as soon as everything was getting closer, as soon as the airstrike carrier groups were getting closer and closer, then he said that actually the deal it's not going anywhere. I'm not happy with the deal. And then the day after, boom, right? So for so many days after, so since the beginning of the ceasefire, President Trump has also, again, deja vu, has been saying that, oh yeah, they want a deal, they're going to make a deal, I'm happy with them, these people are so much more rational, they're moderate or whatever, and they are a lot more flexible, and they're going to give us everything that we want. Okay, and then the minute everything is getting closer and closer, and now let's look at his language. So let me bring this up. So this was just from a few hours ago.
So they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it. So we'll see what happens. Iran wants to make a deal because they have no military left, essentially, and they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it.
Why are you not seeking congressional approval?
Because it's never been sought before. There's been many times, and nobody's ever gotten it before. They consider it totally unconstitutional. But we're always in touch with Congress. But nobody's ever sought it before. Nobody's ever asked for it before. It's never been used before. Why should we be different? We have great respect for Pakistan and Islamabad, and tremendous respect for the Prime Minister and the Field Marshal. And they're working with us. They continue to work with us. But the trip is a very long one, and we're doing everything in terms of negotiating right now, in terms of the negotiation telephonically.
So let me actually also share this, because he said something here that wasn't captured in the first clip.
We have great respect for Pakistan and Islamabad, and tremendous respect for the Prime Minister and the Field Marshal. And they're working with us. They continue to work with us. But the trip is a very long one, and we're doing everything in terms of negotiating right now, in terms of the negotiation telephonically. They've made strides, but I'm not sure if they ever get there.
I'm not sure if they ever get there. So that was big. And look at this one. This one is from February 27th. This was like basically around less than 24 hours before Operation Epic Fury started. So look how similar his language is right now to how he spoke before we went all boom when the negotiations failed with IRGC the first time around. So look at this.
Talks going with Iran. Are you happy with the progress?
No, I'm not. I'm not happy with the fact that they're not willing to give us what we have to have. So I'm not thrilled with that. We'll see what happens. We're talking later. We'll have some additional talks today. But no, I'm not happy with the way they go.
Concerned at all about President Bill Clinton?
So that was very, very similar. And this is why a lot of people think that military operations are about to start again. But it's not only that, it's also because we have some latest intelligence news reports. This is like just from a couple of hours ago, is that Admiral Cooper from CENTCOM and General Kane, the chief of the chiefs. By the way, guys, like I think General Dan Kane is the third highest ranking military official in the United States. First one being President Trump himself. The second one being, what's his name? Wait, what's his name? The Kafar guy. I forgot. Why am I drawing a blank? Hold on. I watch him every day. I don't know why have I. Oh, okay. Hexet, Pete Hexet. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm getting old, guys. Pete Hexet is number 2, and General Dan Kane is number 3. Okay, and Admiral Brad Cooper is the head of CENTCOM. CENTCOM, for people who don't know, the United States divides the planet into multiple different segments, the whole planet, and each section has its own military commander. So the area around the Middle East is under CENTCOM. CENTCOM is in charge of that area. So Admiral Brad Cooper is in charge of CENTCOM. So Admiral Brad Cooper and General Dan Kane, they offered a proposal. They had a 45-minute situation room briefing on Thursday evening, focused on moving beyond the current frozen state of the blockade. And it's interesting because a lot of people are always suggesting that the blockade is working more better than the military operations. So why not just continue with the blockade and don't do military operation instead of don't put any American soldiers at risk? The issue is that it's not just the United States, as Israel, it is also the Arab countries around the Persian Gulf. They are not at all happy with them with this, with not going back to military operations, right? And they have influence. The Arab countries around the Persian Gulf, they are major allies and customers of the United States, and they cannot just. So everything that we're talking about, the devastation on the economy of the Islamic Republic because of the blockade, and maybe a shutdown on the oil wells, the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar are experiencing a similar thing right now because of the blockade of the Hormuz Strait. So they're like, okay, United States can afford to just wait it out and watch the Islamic Republic to go full bankrupt, but we can't afford that. So that's the Arab countries, and Israel also had a list of to kill people that they were very eager to get to, and they're not very happy with the ceasefire. They want to go back to fighting, and the Islamic Republic also wants to go back to fighting. So they might actually start because the current internal division because of the ceasefire is killing them. So the Islamic Republic, because they're eager to go back to fighting as well, they might actually start military operations before even the Americans. And again, if that is about to happen, the Americans might as well start it themselves, right? So at least it's happening on their terms, right? So they put 3 military options in front of President Trump. So the 3 we have: number 1, the Hormuz Liberation Plan; number 2 is the final blow; and number 3 is the nuclear extraction. So President Trump might choose 1, 2, or all 3 of these. But let's see what each one of them is. Okay, so number 1 is the Hormuz Liberation. This mission is deploying U.S. ground forces to seize and secure several small strategic islands around the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, for this, you would need USS Tripoli, which is already there. But USS Boxer being there would have also been helpful because these are amphibious airstrike carriers groups with their because they have the main ship has the ability to deploy assets that go from the water without a port into land. For example, the hovercrafts. So it's interesting to see that USS Boxer actually didn't arrive because USS Boxer was around the Philippines, but obviously their position is not being exposed, but we haven't seen it come to the Persian Gulf. So nobody knows if it has actually made a move towards the Persian Gulf or not. But the USS Boxer, for it to come towards to the Persian Gulf, the understanding is that it has to go through the Malacca Strait. And usually, when you go through the Malacca Strait, there are photographers there that basically see these, right? So USS Boxer hasn't been seen going through the Malacca Strait. So maybe the understanding is that it's still around the Philippines. So it's actually very interesting to try to figure out like why hasn't it made a move? Is it still over there, or did it make a move? Or because if it did make a move, probably people would see it. And again, these amphibious navy assets are important for taking islands. But again, is USS Tripoli enough, or is Boxer not moving to the region? A suggestion that maybe the number 1 suggestion here is not going to be is not going to be picked. it's interesting because they did offer it to President Trump. So maybe USS AAA enough is enough for this. Okay, so the mission for this one is deploying U.S. ground forces to seize and secure several small strategic islands around the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, one thing that is interesting is that the taking over of the Hark Island has been, the chances of that happening has reduced. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it has been reduced because the blockade is working very well. So the point of taking over Khark Island would have been to stop the Islamic Republic's ability to sell oil, but the blockade is already doing that without putting American soldiers at risk. If you wanted to take over Khark Island, you would have to put American soldiers in a place where they could get hit by missiles and drones. But now, why would you even do that anymore? Because the whole point of that was to stop the Islamic Republic from exporting, and the blockade is achieving that while the American soldiers enforcing the blockade being so far away from Iran's shores, without, so they're not accessible to the Islamic Republic's drones and missiles, like they're in the Gulf of Oman, so they can't be reached. But the Hormuz Liberation would not be for the purpose of blocking oil from coming out of Iran. So maybe you will put some boots on the ground, not to take over Khark Island, which reduces Islamic Republic's ability to export oil, but you will put some boots on the ground with the goal to liberate this Hormuz Strait for the sake of all these other countries who are trying to get their oil out. So the goal would be to physically break the Iranian blockade that has paralyzed 20% of global oil and LNG shipment, reopening the waterway to commercial traffic. So if they do this, it will be mostly for the sake of the global economy and especially the Arab countries around the Persian Gulf, because it wouldn't be for it wouldn't because when it comes to U.S. interest, the blockade is doing its thing. So that's number one. Number two is basically a very rapid final blow, going in fast, rapid, like taking out the leaders and some infrastructure. So this is number two. Let's call it the final blow, infrastructure and leader strike. So the mission would be a short and powerful wave of precision strikes targeting the Islamic Republic's remaining military assets, IRGC leadership, maybe when Mujtaba Khamenei, Zolqadr, Vahidi, these are the people that we want to take out, Ghalibaf, and also critical dual use infrastructure, including power plants, right? So the goal with this would be to maximize psychological and physical pressure on the regime to compel them to come back to the negotiating table without initiating a long-term occupation. So this would be having the blockade as pressure, but adding to the pressure to get the Islamic Republic to surrender. So that would be number two. That's the number two option that they give to President Trump. And number three is to go in and extract the nuclear material. Basically, a raid with special operations, right? Special ops, going in, raiding, bringing in the engineering team. This is really difficult to do, as we discussed last time, because you need to. This is not just a military operation. This is an engineering operation. A lot of the enriched uranium is under a lot of rubble, so getting it out is going to not be like a fast operation. You have to be there for multiple days. You have to be inside Iran, I don't know, in Esfahan, in Natanz, I don't know where else, like maybe in Fordo. And you need to basically establish an army that is there, that is constantly for days securing your engineers, doing this very complicated, difficult operation, while the Islamic Republic has this army there. And you basically constantly during these days are defending your engineers against that. This seems like, I don't know, if this happens, this would be the craziest operations we have ever seen in military history. Okay. So the goal, but apparently it was one of the three options that General Kane and Admiral Cooper gave to President Trump. So this is the riskiest one, by the way. This is the most dangerous, riskiest, most complicated of all options, right? So the goal of this one would be to physically secure and remove the Islamic Republic's stockpile of 60% enriched uranium, effectively resetting their nuclear clock and removing their primary leverage. So I have more to say about this, but let me actually go to you guys and maybe I'll put a two in the chat because I want to see what you guys have to say before I talk to you more about some other details regarding this. Okay, so who's in the response list?
Daniel is next. Ali will be back shortly.
Okay.
About what Trump said on when he told about the telephone call. So if they actually do it, they're gonna get traced. The Americans can pin the cell phone which was used for the negotiations. And after that,
Well, I don't understand
we
what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Can you explain again?
like when the Islamic regime will do a phone call to speak to Donald Trump, right?
Okay.
So they can identify the bunker from which the phone call was made.
No, here's the thing. When it comes to where the regime officials are, that is easy for the Israelis to do. Okay, so don't worry about it. Israel has proven that there's not a place where these people could hide. The Israel has no problem identifying exactly where these people are minute by minute. And also, I want to like what I'm talking about right now is the military offers. Oh, you're talking about when it comes to a strike that takes out the leadership. Are you saying that the phone calls will be able
Yeah,
to?
I'm talking
Yeah,
about I'm talking about it.
yeah, okay. But here's the thing: if you look at, for example, during the 12-day war, and then in Operation Epic Fury, it was impossible for the Islamic Republic to hide. There was the Israelis, for example, delayed attacking a meeting because they could tell that somebody was late to the meeting. That's how detailed of that's how much information they had, right? Not only that, Israel actually managed to arrange a meeting themselves in Iran. Did you guys know that? There was a meeting that the leaders of IRGC got around with each other to meet with each other, and they didn't know that the meeting organizer was Israel. That is like a level of access and information gathering capacity that is ridiculous. This is like some 007 shit, even beyond that. If this was a movie, it wouldn't be believable, right? So I think the Islamic Republic has also given up on trying to hide because they know that there's no way to hide.
Also, on the military options that were publicly available, I think if that's the information that getting to the public, I think the plan is completely different and we will just watch it when it will happen.
Yeah, here's the thing: it doesn't. For the Islamic Republic is not capable of meaningfully responding to whatever plans the United States has, right? So United States is less interested in keeping this what it wants to do secret. The way that it wants to carry it out and might be secret, but the options that it's at in front of it works as a way to maybe hopefully get the Islamic Republic to, from the American perspective, I don't think there's a chance to that for that. But from the American perspective, when your enemy cannot actually react to the military options that you have, then it's actually better if they know that they're going to be what the United States might actually do this and that as a way to give them one last chance to bend the knee and capitulate. Because what is the let's say for example the United States is planning on doing strikes on on power plants and take out also come in and take out the top leadership. Let's say the Islamic Republic figures that out. That's the plan. Okay, how is that going to give them an advantage? It's not like they can do anything about it. There's basically literally nothing they could do about it. So that piece of information that the Americans are about to do this is basically useless information to the Islamic Republic. In fact, the only thing they could do is this. They could Nabavian, for example, just came out and said that if you assassinate us, we're going to kill who? We're going to kill the leaders of Arab countries. They look at this is what Nabavian just came out and said. This isn't the street protest by the pro-regime Iranian people. So this is Nabavian. He's a member of the parliament. He's also part of the Paidari camp, and he was also part of the delegation team to Islamabad. So he came out and said that here, Mahmoud, so Iranian MP and member of the negotiation delegation Mahmoud Nabavian states that if Iranian leaders are assassinated in any attack, by the way, this part of the statement shows that they know that this is going to happen. They know that this is an option. This is possibly going to happen very soon, right? He says if Iranian leaders are assassinated in any attack, all of the complicit despots in the Persian Gulf, meaning basically the leaders of UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain. So all of them will be killed and their palaces destroyed. So the threat is not even against the Americans because they know they can't do anything against Americans. So the best they could do is if the Americans come and kill us, if the Israelis gonna come and kill us, we're gonna kill who? Israelis, Americans. They know you can. You know they can't do that. So they're like, we're gonna kill Arab leaders, right? That's the only
But
people that they could kill. And
isn't it
yeah,
pathetic? Isn't it pathetic to say
yeah.
something like this? Oh, we will kill them. How? Okay, you told you will kill them. How? With your ghosts? Like how? How are you gonna do that?
No, it is pathetic. No, you're right. It's very pathetic. Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey
So
has
yeah,
some insights.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, so I was a little late because I was writing one of the policies for the strike package. Here's what I can say. If they pull the trigger the way I outlined, you'll have three phases. The nature of that policy is 5 by 5, $5 billion in 5 days, and the regime is completely killed. So the initial wave, you're talking about servicing 10,352 aim points or targets. That's going to center around the first two things you were talking about, those two lines of effort. Everything in the Strait of Hormuz gets targeted, obliterated. So every fucking fast attack boat, every fishing boat, every Durka dickhead in a fucking inflatable dinghy, a rubber duck, Scuba Steve trying to get it on with the fucking sucker fish at the bottom of the ocean, every land-based launched anti-ship missile, every road mobile launcher, every fucking radar, everything is destroyed. Along with that, you'll have all of the conventional military that is possessed by the Mullah regime remnants destroyed. Every tank, every helicopter, every fucking APC, every towed and self-propelled artillery, including short-range rockets like Graz, that's all taken out. Additionally, you'll sit there and see decapitative strikes against all the IRGC and besieged headquarters down to, let's take a look here. You guys call it different. It's like not the regional. So you have the main headquarters, then you got the 31 regional shits that we've already hit. We'll make sure whatever's left there is dead. And then you have like all the other within regional headquarters are going to get obliterated. Every general, every colonel, every lieutenant colonel is decapitated and killed. Everybody part of the Mullah regime is dead. Then the bombers, and that's a combination of our heavy aircraft, all of them. That's why you see the B-1Bs doing what they're doing, and or max sorties being pushed by all three carriers. Bombers go back, right? They're going to reload, rearm, all that. That takes about 3 days. So they got to fly back, have their engines serviced, be rearmed with small diameter bombs, 250 pounds with GPS guided munitions. That's for the final wave. During that time period, the carriers will commit their maximum sortie rates for the next 3 days, which is about what they can sustain. That's another 6,800 targets and elements within the besiege and IRGC leadership down to the captains murdered. And when the fucking final bomber comes back, you're talking about 19,000 plus targets, a little on 20,000 targets. You've killed everything down to lieutenants. At that point, in 5 days, the regime ceases to fucking exist. Like that thing you keep showing with all the red dots, that's all red X'd out. So here's the issue. The Mullah regime will cease to exist as an entity. The Mullah regime remnants will have no access to conventional military whatsoever. None. They will have small arms. You'll still have besieged like the executionary, or let's say, I don't want to call them privates because it's an insult to a professional soldier. Just like the average foot douchebag will still be around, right? Besiege and IRGC, they'll be completely leaderless. In the After the initial strike, it could go one of three ways or a combination thereof. The Durkas will sit there, like President Trump will say, yep, you should sit there and come to this point and surrender to the Marines. We'll take you into custody. If you don't, we will hunt you down and fucking kill you and keep bombing until we run out. Either you're all like you come to your senses or we run the fuck out of targets. So the Durkas can either do that, right? Or maybe they go, this is their final curtain call. They know they're dead. So what they'll do is they'll initiate burning all of Iran to the ground, say detonating their WMDs in fucking place, like having all their sabotage people blow up all the oil wells, open up the oil to flood the fucking Strait of Hormuz,
go full blown Saddam Hussein, detonate the friggin' oil, because then you're like, yeah, I don't have to worry about not I, forgive me, Hashem. I'm not those douchebags. Right now, you have a region wide act of like economic, environmental, ecological terrorism. Or they can sit there and try to flee and take off their shit and run to Pakistan or any other place, put on hijab and stick tampons up their asshole and pretend they're women and all the other stupid shit they tried before. So it could be a combination of all of that. Either way, Donald is not very fucking happy. He's tired of their bullshit. He doesn't want Iranian people to die. He wants to leave something for Iranian people, which is why he held off. Like, a lot of us are not advocating physically destroying critical infrastructure because we want Iranians to have something as a country. I would suggest to the mullah regime, even though I know they're not going to do it because they're a bunch of crazy fucks, pseudo-theologically Durka jackasses who don't give a shit at all about anything other than their cockamamie Kaaba that tells them to kill anybody who doesn't bob their head to whatever. It would be great if they just surrender. That's why I said all they got to do is cry uncle. Come here, right? Come here. So like when Daniel was like, what, you're ghosts and blah, 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 blah. If Pete pulls the trigger on the strike package that I sent up, the regime is dead in 5 days as a fucking national political body. They're done. It comes with risks, right? There's things that they can do. As far as like conventional force projection, yeah, no, that's all done. That's all done. All done. No boats, no tanks, no artillery, no helicopters, no fucking. Basically, you're going to have, that's the other issue, right? Maybe they just try to turn Iran into fucking the sectarian, horrible shit that happened in Syria, which is why His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi very rightly told his people who are tied to him and the Artesh and all of that, do not come out and kill yourself protesting. We need to conserve your fighting strength to stabilize shit after the regime is dead. What's some of the friggin' like bottlenecks? One of the main is intelligence. So as soon as the first wave hits, every Durka douchebag is going to try to hide, pretend they're Artesh. I wouldn't put it past a mullah motherfucker to put a baby on their head, right? Like they're just that shitty. So that's where I see things going, at least what me and a lot of the more hawkish people are pushing for. Daniel's not wrong. If Donald gives Pete the go-ahead, given what we put in place now, you can kiss your little molasses goodbye.
Can I interject here just a little bit? Very shortly, Jeffrey, because I know I'm interrupting, but why haven't they done this already?
So we were looking to use our heavy aircraft in the initial campaign for the initial 30 days. That said, certain assholes within the Western European elements of our NATO alliance denied us the use of our air bases with the goal of frustrating our efforts to then, I would contend, I don't have evidence of this, I'm saying my gut tells me that those people are very much wanting to go back to, they want to find any which way under the sun to politically constrain President Trump and his administration, because President Trump has called them on the carpet and said, we're not going to pay for your defense anymore. It's time for you to sit there and pull your own weight. And they don't like that shit. They want to sit there and weaken him so that way they can constrain the policies and go back to the U.S. paying their fucking defense so that they can support all their cockamamie social entitlement crap. Not to mention a lot of the mullahs have been bribing those douchebags. Just think of fucking Starmer and all the crap he's pulled, right? He might as well, you almost want to go, I don't know, I might want to ask you, although like a perverse sense, how does Mullah Dick taste? Because it seems like you're pretty much kissing their ass. Like, what the fuck, dude? Kick these guys out of Great Britain. Why did it not happen? That's one issue. The other issue is we didn't want to sit there and we were worried about collateral damage and we don't want to kill Iranian people.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Sketch is next to respond.
Yes, any strike package that goes out 5 days sounds like a great outline. You can maybe give yourself an extra day or two, but 5 sounds great. In any strike package, I talked to Jeffrey about this before. You would want to turn off all the electronics. That doesn't mean you have to destroy them. There's a way to do it without destroying them. And once you turn off the power everywhere, anyone that has a cell phone that works is probably traceable, number one, like Daniel was saying. Not the same with the power on than with the power off. If you turn off every source of power and you have signals that work, right? You would be also be turning off cell phone towers. But if you have some kind of satellite phones and stuff like that, you're just giving away your location. And another point would be that I would insist is that if I was Donald, I would be trying maybe after this package, maybe during, to get that uranium. That has to be in operations. You might need to bring in some globe masters, some super galaxy to bring the real heavy equipment that you would actually use in mining and just get it. Is it going to take a week? Is it whatever, however long it's going to take? Just get it. Would they be vulnerable? Yes, but they're also, it's a mountain. You would see them coming up the mountain, and you have way better optics and surveillance than they do. So they are in a place where everyone would know, but it's not like it's that easy to get them, right? You would have countered the best counter drone stuff at that point. You would go in knowing all of these things. You would probably even have discombobulators on site, the fray effect microwave weapons. So I would put that at the forefront, maybe not at the same time, but right after. You have to get the uranium, because Don is not. He's also politically smart. He wants to wrap this up before the. He wants that win before the midterms, and if he gets that win, he gets the SCOTUS win on redistricting, and he finished this with the uranium in hand. If the revolution takes a little more time, and we all know that it would take more time for the full change, for the Artesh to come in, for everyone to, if they are coming in, for everyone to for the people to truly rise. As long as we get that uranium out, we finish the operation basically with tie that bow on it, we would be okay. We would be okay, and we would be able to help more from afar, because once you get the uranium out, once you, the rest is happening by itself. It's slowly devolving because of the economic fury. So the only big problem for Americans is that we haven't gotten the uranium. Once we got that there, they could, there's some people that are always going to say everything we're doing is bad, everything that Donald does is bad. But for the more logical people, for the more logical Walmart Americans, if you get the uranium out, you won. And after that, you can do things and help, but the people will stop paying attention that much, because we're not in anymore. And it's just about the blockade. And we're doing strikes, we're helping Israel. There's movement on the ground. The people are revolting, but we're not in. And as long as we're physically not there, we do a 1 week operation and get the uranium out, we'll be done. That will be finished, and we'll be able to help, but not have that political pressure on us. That's my take on it. I think that would be important.
Thank you, Sketch. Armin, you put a 2 in the chat as well to respond.
Yes. Yes, because I just wanted to add a few more interesting things about the potentially upcoming military operations. During the briefing, the Pentagon also with President Trump, the Pentagon also discussed deploying special high-tech hardware to support these options. So we have Dark Eagle. By the way, Jeffrey, have you heard of these? Let me know in the chat. Dark Eagle hypersonic missiles. So CENTCOM has requested the first ever regional deployment of these weapons, which can strike targets up to 2,000 miles away in minutes. And then we have, yes, okay. And then we have the B-1B Lancer bombers. These have already increased their presence in the region, ready to deliver massive payloads of precision guided munition if the final blow option is greenlit. And then we also have some information regarding the legal and the economic situation when it comes to these military operations. So, as you guys saw us discussing, there's the War Powers Act. I just wanted this also to be recorded so that we have a full picture of everything is happening. So, the May 1st deadline passed already. The White House argues the April ceasefire stopped the clock, while Congress claims that the administration is violating the law, at least the democratic part of it. And then we have the global markets. The oil prices were very volatile. Brent crude went to 126 per barrel, but then it dropped now again to, what is it now? It dropped, like it went really high and then it dropped to 113. And the S&P was like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to keep going up. I don't care. So the S&P just reached historical highs, as if there is no um, increase in oil prices. So that's the global markets, and then the blockade. So General Kane clarified that while the U.S. is maintaining a strict blockade of Iran's ports, they are not yet blocking the entire strait, which is why option one is very significant regarding liberating the Strait of Hormuz. So those are just some additional points that I wanted to add to this. Yeah, some really interesting new toys might be added to the military operations.
Interesting. Ian, you wanted to respond to this?
Yeah, sorry, I'm right next to a train. Sorry. I just wanted to, while we're putting down chips, I just wanted to put the perspective that it doesn't seem to me like the effects of the blockade have really actually plateaued at this point. And so I don't know, other than the external pressure, I don't see a good reason for Trump um, to change tactics right now. So it's a little surprising to me that everyone is. I see him as just biding his time to try to get as much effect out of that tactic as possible, and it's just going to take time. If they were to do another startup kinetic strikes, it wouldn't surprise me if they try to do something that essentially shows that the regime doesn't have as much power on the ground as they project. And the reason for that is that the sort of the fourth leg of the table has always been that their power on the ground is something that the U.S. Shouldn't even try to do. And just the fact that they're talking about going into Isfahan, et cetera, indicates that they're willing to deploy forces on the ground. And so I would expect them to try to show that they can control parts of, let's say, the southern coast. And the reason is because that gives Trump an opportunity to demonstrate how the people will react. And so I would imagine him trying to get a taste of that. That's all I have to say.